Hello, YouTubers. This is Gold Standard 00924 coming at you with another audio commentary video. I'm going to be continuing my SummerSlam archival review installments. And the SummerSlam I'll be reviewing is from the year of 1994. Um, this show, this was a pretty solid show at best. There are about 7 matches on the card here. This SummerSlam overall was pretty solid, like I said. So just to kind of kick off the SummerSlam reviews, we have the opening match on the card, which is the Headshrinkers taking on the Million Dollar Corporation members of IRS and Bam Bam Bigelow. Um, this was actually a pretty solid match. Originally, this was supposed to be for the tag belts. The Head Shrinkers, they were the tag team champions, but then on the Raw Go Home show, um, Shawn Michaels and Diesel won the tag titles, and pretty much this would have been a tag title match originally, but obviously Michaels and Diesel won it, so it was basically just your regular tag team match. Um, just some really good back and forth here. Um, it's kind of interesting seeing, Fatu, especially since a lot of people, including myself, um, grew up watching them as Rikishi. And it was kind of weird just seeing him in the afro and before becoming the star that he would turn out to be. But, that he was in a tag team and, just really weird. Like several years ago, or several years prior to the Attitude Era, you wouldn't think that he would have at least had some moderate success. But this was actually a really good match. You know, and some really good double team here and there. I really like the part where I like that big body splash that Fatu did. Um, I know a lot of people shit on like the Million Dollar Corporation. I'm not really sure why, but they were basically, I guess, because they were basically just a mid card stable, and the wrestlers in it weren't really that good. Maybe outside of Bam Bam Bigelow. Um, I don't know. The stable actually lasted about a year and a half, surprisingly enough. Um, and they never really won any title belts. You could argue about the Million Dollar belt, which was held by Steve Austin, but that wasn't really a belt. Um, but getting back to the match, it was a really solid match. The crowd, this pay per view was held in Chicago, so the crowd was really on fire, especially for an undercard match. The Headshrinkers were really over that night. But unfortunately, the match ended in disqualification and just a lot of controversy. Just controversy back and forth. With some of the referees coming in and trying to kind of break the violence from spreading. Um, but the match was still a pretty good one. About 2 1/4 stars. And then we get to the next match on the card, which is for the women's title. You have the champion Alundra Blayze taking on Japanese wrestler Bulls Nakano. Um, this is really one of those really underrated gem. Not a lot of people talk about this match, but maybe because it's a it's a women's match, and a lot of people just have this mentality that, oh, women's wrestling sucks. They can't wrestle and shit. But this was actually a really good match. It's kind of a shame no one really talks about it. You know, I mean, now, for WWF and WWE back then, it's just women's wrestling just kind of gets a really bad rep because they always hire all these model wrestlers that don't really, more or less likely, have any sort of passion for being legit wrestlers, not like just women that just are only there solely for like Playboy and shit. But this one was a really great match. Alundra Blayze was like the baby face, and um, she was actually really pretty good. Just some really nice Hurricane Rana. I really like that. just some really good back and forth. Bulls Nakao pretty much like dominating the match too. So Lunger Blayze was kind of the underdog. Um, just the match. I mean, it didn't exceed 10 minutes necessary, but for a match that was like a TV style match, I mean, it was really. The crowd was really, like I said, with Chicago. I mean, they're really um, they were really active, proactive that night, and especially for a women's match, and it's something that you don't see in today anymore. I mean, I don't know, WWE just doesn't really put any effort to it as much. I mean, they sort of do, but it's for the most part, it's just basically filler time. But this match was just really showing what women's wrestling could be, and but I mean, Lunger Blayze ended up winning the match with the German suplex bridge, and so she retains the title. So yeah, I mean, a really great match. 3 stars. And then we get to the third match on the card, which is for the Intercontinental title. You have the champion Diesel taking on Razor Ramon. Um, Now, at the time, Shawn Michaels was Diesel's manager, and we all know Diesel's obviously Kevin Nash. Um, and Razor Ramon's obviously Scott Hall too. So this was kind of more of like the precursor to the Outsiders tag team that we all grew to love. Especially when they went over to WCW. But this was actually like with the previous match. I mean, this was really just as good. The IC title, just really feeling important back then. Um, I mean, Razor Ramon won the Intercontinental title from Shawn Michaels in that infamous ladder match at WrestleMania 10. And then on an episode of Superstars, Razor Ramon lost the belt to Diesel. And, he was the champ ever since. And obviously, he was also one half of the tag team champions, just since I explained that Michaels and Diesel won the tag titles from the Headshrinkers. So this kind of culminates into a match, and I guess you could say more of a rematch. And I mean, this is a really underrated match, also. And just us, saw some good back and forth. Just a technical wrestling. I mean, I know a lot of people shit on like these, on Kevin Nash and how he can't wrestle and stuff, and he's an asshole, or at least all these accusations people say about him. But I mean, I'm not saying I'm a fan of Kevin Nash or anything, but there are times where he could really have a pretty good match. Just it's a click party match if you want to really call it, since they're both friends in real life. Um, but just some really good back and forth. Just some really good stuff. We have Shawn Michaels as the manager, and Razor Ramon also had someone accompanying him. I think his name was Walter Payton, and just a lot of good back and forth, like I said. And the finish came when Shawn Michaels tried to do a sweet chin music on Razor Ramon, but Razor Ramon moved out of the way and accidentally nails the sweet chin music on Diesel. And Shawn Michaels is all shocked. It's like, what have I done? And then he pretty much runs away. And then there was like a little ref bump also before it. Um, and then like Razor Ramon crouched over the Diesel and managed to get the 3 count. So Razor Ramon wins back his Intercontinental title. Um, just a really great match. About 3.5 stars. I mean, it's just a really fun, just very fun match. Like I said, what more can I say? Um, so that's pretty much Diesel versus Razor Ramon. Next match we have is Lex Luger versus Tatanka. Just the build up being like Tatanka accusing Lex Luger of supposedly selling his soul to Ted DiBiase. You know, um, there have been months of build up. Um, they just really show like recaps of some of the events that kind of unfolded, with Lex Luger, and just some suspicions that that he's been interacting with DiBiase in some way or another. Whether it's like backstage segments or the segment that Shawn Michaels used to do, Heartbreak Cartel. Um, and it kind of culminates into a match, and Tatanka and Luger were friends up until DiBiase started, just starting to make offers to Lex Luger. So that's really how the feud kind of culminates into a match at SummerSlam. Um, I mean, This wasn't really a good match. It was kind of a step down from the previous two matches. I guess the opening match was kind of pretty good. I mean, but this one was really just, I don't know. It's just, it was like only 5 minutes match, I guess. I mean, despite the build up, how important this feud was, but it just really wasn't that good. Um, and then Teddy DiBiase came out and just tried to offer Luger money, but Luger wouldn't take it. Um, and Tatanka won with like a roll up, and then you know, and it kind of led to that heel turn where Tatanka ambushed Lex Luger, and it showed that Tatanka was the one selling out after all. So just some really weird turn of events. Luger was supposedly teased to join the Million Dollar Corporation, but then they kind of pulled a swerve on the crowd, and Tatanka becomes, um, he basically joins the Million Dollar Corporation here. So just a really disappointing match. I want to give it maybe like 2 stars, I guess. I mean, I guess you could say it's somewhat the same rating as the opening match with the Headshrinkers, but at least the Headshrinkers match was actually um, kept me at the edge of my seat. But I mean, despite the DQ finish, but Luger Tatanka just was really forgettable. About maybe 2 stars. And then we get to the next match on the card, which is Jeff Jarrett taking on Mabel. Another filler match, really. Just the basic build up. With Jeff Jarrett being the country star and Mabel being like the rapper, because um, he was part of the Men on a Mission. Men on a Mission. Um, I think I don't know what the other guy's name was in Men on a Mission. I mean, I was pretty young at the time, so I mean, I don't really have any memories of the new generation era. So I mean, I don't think I was watching wrestling at the time. Um, but you know, yeah, Oscar. I think that was the guy that was accompanying him. But I mean, just a very solid match. I mean, just a TV style match. Jeff Jarrett being kind of like the goofy heel at the time. Um, just I don't know. It was just a really forgettable match. I mean, not that it was necessarily bad, but just a kind of a filler match to kind of calm the audience down. I mean, I don't know why this match didn't go after Diesel Razor Ramon, because I could have sworn that match lasted like forever. But I don't know. But I mean, it was an all right match, but just didn't really have a lot of build up. Just the whole rap versus country music thing. And then I think like the match ended when Mabel tried to do like his sit down butt bomb. I'm not sure what if you want to call it that one, but then like Jeff Jarrett moved out of the way and then just pretty much got the win there. But Jeff Jarrett, like I said, he won the match. Um, yeah, I mean, just I guess you could say it was middly entertaining. So I mean, it's 2 and 1/4 star. I mean, nothing spectacular. Um, I mean, you never thought Jeff Jarrett would end up being a world champion. And obviously, we all know Mabel went on to win King of the Ring like a year later. And I don't think we want to remember '95, but and we all know Mabel became Viscera. So I mean, it was kind of a bland match. So about 2 and 1/4 stars. And then we get to our double header main events. We get the steel cage match between the WF champion Bret Hart taking on his brother Owen. This is basically kind of a rematch from WrestleMania 10, but with the steel cage surrounding the ring. Um, Now this match, I mean, it was still pretty good. It's very mixed. It's a very mixed bag for a lot of fans, and I guess I could understand why. But I personally enjoyed this match. It's not as good as the WrestleMania 10 match. I mean, a lot of the times, I mean, Bret and Owen would attempt to like climb over the cage because I think this is at the time where the only way to win a cage match is by climbing over the cage or escaping through the cage door. I mean, I don't think there were any pinfalls or submissions, but just the old school style steel cage match. Um, I mean, it kind of. I mean, and also note the fact that it also kind of dragged on for too long. I mean, it was like 40 plus minutes. I mean, it was almost. I don't know if I was gonna sit. I was gonna sit around for that long, but I mean, it was still enjoyable. You have the whole Hart family watching the crowd. Just a lot. Just some really good back and forth. Just it was more technical wrestling than it was like a legit cage match. I mean, granted, they did kind of utilize the cage structure, just slamming each other in the cage, but you don't really see that a whole lot. And then just I mean, there was just a lot of going on, so it's kind of hard to describe. Um, just describe like what notable spots were there in the match. Can't really think of it. I think there was like a superplex off the top of the cage. Um, Man, I mean, I'm just losing my train of thought there. I apologize. But Bret Hart ended up winning the match. Both. What happened was like Bret and Owen were like climbing over the cage at the same time, and it was just a really dramatic scene because we don't even know who's gonna drop at on the ringside at first. Um, and then Owen Hart, his foot got caught in the cage, and then it allowed Bret Hart to successfully land at ringside. So basically, he won the match. And then just a lot of chaos happened even after the match ended. With Jim Neidhart attacking Bret Hart from the crowd, and then it just kind of turned into like an all-out war. And then just the Hart family tried to climb over the cage when I think Owen Hart like handcuffed Bret Hart in the cage, and they were just beating him down. And then by the time the Hart family made it over the cage, Owen and not and Jim Neidhart, they basically like ran backstage and then in their car, and that's basically how it ended. I mean, it was just I don't know, it was really carnage. But I mean, it was still a really good match regardless. I want to give it 4 stars. And then we get the main event of the match. We have is the Undertaker taking on the Undertaker, and as far as like the real Undertaker goes, he got it traces back to the Royal Rumble in 1994 in that casket match against then WWF champion Yokozuna, and he had like almost the entire WF roster helping out Yokozuna and trying to bury Undertaker inside the casket, and thus Undertaker just disappeared from television. And then Ted DiBiase supposedly allegedly brought back the Undertaker, and if we all um, damn what I'm saying. Ted DiBiase, he was the guy that originally brought the Undertaker in Survivor Series 1990, and everyone thought the Undertaker was back, but then Paul Bear just accused it that wasn't the real Undertaker, and it took a lot of convincing, and then it kind of builds up at SummerSlam when the real Undertaker showed up. Um, I mean, this match, I mean, it wasn't really like spectacular. I mean, it was kind of one of the most build up feuds going in this pay per view. I would think people would get kind of burnt out after the steel cage match, so people would think that well, maybe this match should have gone last. And obviously, if it wasn't for all the controversy after the match, as far as like Bret versus Owen goes, um, yeah, I mean, maybe it could have been the last match on the card, but it wasn't, and I guess I could understand why. So, I mean, Undertaker versus Undertaker, just a really, I don't know, it was just a very uneventful match, but it sort of did its job. People got their money's worth. Match didn't really last long. It was more like a welcome back Undertaker match, but um, the other Undertaker that portrayed him, the fake one, was portrayed by Brian Lee, who some people might know him as Chains from the Disciples of Apocalypse, and that would be a stable that would form in about like 2 or 3 years, 2 3 years later, and but just a really interesting trivia there. But in the end, the real Undertaker beat the fake Undertaker to win the match. So it took like three tombstones, tombstone pile drivers. Um, so yeah, I mean that's basically Undertaker versus Undertaker. I mean about maybe 2 stars, but just nothing really too spectacular or anything like that. Overall, like I said, this show, I mean, this is a really solid show. Nothing too spectacular or anything, but a really underrated SummerSlam. Um, for SummerSlam 1994, the pay-per-view score overall I get is a 7 out of 10.